Coming up today here on the Raiders Report, are the Silver and Black going to use a running back by committee? Pete Carroll said something recently, and I think a lot of people, especially fantasy football fans out there, are wondering about it. The Raiders had a mini-camp workout that kind of got swept under the bus a little bit on Thursday. I want to be able to just sit up here and talk about it, who it is, if you haven't heard about him, and kind of who he could potentially impact or even take a job from. And then at the very end of the show, I want you to send this to a Chiefs fan because it sounds like Andy Reid is already a little bit worried about this Raiders football team. If you're not already subscribed, make sure you click those subscribe button. Make sure you turn on that notification bell. I wanted to give a shout out to Dawson, Scott, Noah, Matt, and then ED for being the first 5 people that commented on a recent Raiders video that I did. If you're like, Mitch, how the hell can I get a shout out? Subscribe and turn on those notifications. All right, let's first talk about the first story coming up here around the Raiders using a running back by committee. I'm going to give this one to Just Win Babies. I'm going to say that people are talking about it, and when I say people, I mean Pete Carroll. And when you hear running back by committee, I think a lot of fans kind of freaked out because they were like, well, wait a minute here, dude. We drafted Jeanty at number 6 overall, and now you're telling me we're not going to give him the majority of carries? Let's just pump the brakes, I think, on what a bell cow running back is and what a committee is. Like, to me, you can have a little bit of a committee, and you can also have a bell cow running back. Like, to me, Jeanty is going to be the main running back that's going to get the majority of the touches, a majority of the opportunities for the Las Vegas Raiders. But at the exact same time, if you thought Pete Carroll was going to give 100% of the touches to Jeanty, then 1, you don't know ball, and 2, you don't know who Pete Carroll is, because Carroll did recently say this on these running back by committee approach. I love having multiple guys play. I'm not relying on one guy, you know. Then Pete Carroll had to say on how the carries will be divided. He said they're going to show us that, when they get their chance to compete. And that's what Pete Carroll is always going to do. He's going to allow his guys to go out there and compete. But I'll also say this, if he's given them a chance to do it, Ashton Jeanty is going to be the guy I'm going to bet is a better running back overall. So before we sit up here and discuss how many carries maybe Jeanty could have or maybe what exactly this running back by committee could look like, I'm doing air quotes when I say committee, I wanted to be able to show you guys how many rushing attempts per game the Seattle Seahawks had when Carroll was as the head coach from 2023, and then you can go all the way down to 2010 when he first started there. But let's just look at the numbers, right? 31st in the league, which actually might surprise some people. Bottom line, when Carroll has had a dog, a workhorse back, they've ran the football a lot more, and you can kind of see here from 2017 to 2010, a lot of those numbers when they had beast mode Marshawn Lynch, right? Like, they were pounding the rock, they had a great defense, and they were able to run the football a lot more effectively, where over the past few years, their offensive line was so atrocious that they weren't really able to run the football. So what I really wanted to be able to show people is this, and when you hear running back by committee, people are going, all right, well, how is this going to be divided then? So when you look at all of those numbers by rushing attempts with Pete Carroll with Seattle from 2010 to 2023, essentially the Seahawks averaged 27.9 rush attempts per game. For math's sake, let's just say that they averaged 28 rushing attempts per game. So then, when you look at the Raiders' running back room, you know that Jeanty is going to get the majority of the work there. And if the quote that Pete Carroll said is going to scare fantasy football owners or going to scare Raiders fans, don't let it scare you, because Jeanty's going to be the main guy. But Mostert will get some touches. Sincere McCormick, I don't know how often he's going to touch the football, but I do know for a fact that the Raiders are mainly going to use and feature Ashton Jeanty. So you know what? Let's play a little bit of a game here, and this is going to be the pinned comment on today's show here on the Raiders Report. So let's just say the Raiders average 28 rush attempts per game in 2025. Could be more, could be less. How many of those go to Jeanty? So what you're going to see after this YouTube ad break, I'm going to break down if the Raiders are to average 28 rush attempts per game. I'm going to tell you my best guess on how many of those touches Ashton Jeanty would get right after this YouTube ad break. So sit up here. I'm going to say 19. And some people might look at that and go, dude, you are way too low on Jeanty. I would encourage people to look at what bell cow running backs get and backs just based on rush attempts. So from a recent standpoint, let's just say Ezekiel Elliott. He was a running back that was drafted very, very high by the Dallas Cowboys back in, 2014, I think the year was, or 2016, excuse me. He averaged 65% of that team's carries. He was a bell cow back. He was in the game the majority of the time. If Jeanty were to get 19 out of the 28, that is a 67% running back share. Mostert's going to get a few opportunities. Geno Smith's also going to run the ball once or twice, 3 times a game. And then the other backs, just based on averages, are going to get another shot and an opportunity. Also, 19 times 17. We're talking about 340-something carries for Jeanty, which is a large number. I don't even project Jeanty to get that many. My point is, yes, Pete Carroll said running back by committee, but it's not really going to be a committee, y'all. Let's go to the next story here on the Raiders Report. And did the Las Vegas Raiders work out an offensive lineman at minicamp? This one's for Just Win Babies, Believe It Baby. We know that the Raiders signed Jermaine Pratt. You've heard me talk about the Raiders working out also Shaquille Griffin. But did you hear about the Raiders working out offensive lineman Caleb Jones? And I don't know if any of y'all saw some of the videos from the Thursday practice. There was one human being who wore the number 63 jersey. That was just a mountain, a mammoth of a human being. His name is Caleb Jones, and it was the final day of minicamp practice, and he does have some experience in the NFL. Played with the Green Bay Packers from 2022 to 2023, though he never saw any time. Was on the New England Patriots practice squad last season, so you also got to see him at least, stay relevant a little bit here in the National Football League. But when I saw Caleb Jones got a camp invite, and I think most Raider fans should kind of have this thought, in all honesty, if the Raiders are bringing somebody in, that A, means that they just want a little bit more out of that position, which could mean bad things for other offensive linemen on this roster. Now, I can imagine some of you, just like me, were probably like, all right, dude, who the hell is Caleb Jones? He was a 2022 UDFA from Indiana, and he played at Indiana from 2017 to 21. He was a 3-year starter with no NFL experience, but what makes Jones interesting is he can play both left tackle and he can play right tackle. On top of that, if the Raiders were to go out and get him, people like to use the word upside when they describe Jones just because of how big he is. So when you guys see the height, the weight on Jones, it's going to blow your mind a little bit. I know it kind of blew my mind here a little bit because when I think of the biggest offensive lineman on the Raiders, I think of Dalton Wagner. I think of Colton Miller. If you could show the bio, perfect. And for a guy like Jones, he's 6'9", 370 pounds. Like, you literally cannot miss him. Cannot miss him. Monster of a human being. And again, he played with the Packers from 2022 to 2023, and he was on the Patriots practice squad last season. So overall, big body, can play a little bit of swing tackle, but when you look at the notes on him, it's like this guy's got major upside just because they don't make human beings 6'9", 370 pounds. But the problem with Jones is the technique, his ability to just get his feet under him. It's his ability to be able to block, and I know it's a very important thing. But to me, when I saw the fact that Caleb Jones was brought in, I sat up here and I go, okay, well, which one out of the offensive linemen is probably sweating it a little bit? Because when you bring in anybody during minicamp, when you bring in anybody during the offseason, that means that you're trying to get better and you're wondering if that guy is better than any of the dudes that you already have on your roster. So I would say by the Raiders going out and bringing in Jones, the 3 players that I would say would probably, like, Jones is probably bad news for Gottlieb. Parker Clements, who was a UDFA. Gottlieb's he was on the team last year on the practice squad. And then Dalton Wagner, another UDFA from Arkansas, who is that 6'8", 320-pounder, who is just a massive human being. Before we get into the final story here on today's show, which is around the Chiefs being worried about the Raiders. Honestly, I think the Chiefs are worried about the entire AFC West, which is something that I love to hear. Before we get into that, though, I wanted to do a Tuna Top 5. And my Tuna's Top 5 this week is if you played college football and could play anywhere in the country, where would you play? Let's say you're that 5-star recruit. And one of my favorite videos that I see in the offseason with these guys, they're trying on their hats, they're doing all this different stuff. And I had an opportunity at a very low level to, have my hat presentation. And it's something that I'll remember forever, being able to play a little bit of college baseball. But being able to be like that top recruit would be really flipping awesome. So coming up here, I'm going to tell you the top 5 college football programs that I personally would want to play for. And I'll say this, it has changed since I've come down here to Dallas. My wife, Alex, huge Longhorns fan, and just being down here, it's true. Football's different in Texas. It just is, man. It just totally is. I grew up to a Penn State guy, so Penn State would be another school that I'd love the opportunity to go play for. If you're a Raiders fan right now and you want to go play for Michigan with a little John Spytek, Tom Brady action in there, all the history, Charles Woodson, let's go there. Florida, many years ago, I had the opportunity to do a tour of that campus at Gainesville, and legitimately the only thing in Gainesville is that school, and those players are the biggest celebrities out there. And then the last one I'll throw in there is LSU. If there is one game day atmosphere that I think rivals a whiteout at Penn State, it's probably Death Valley at LSU. Let's go to the final story here on the Raiders Report, and are the Chiefs worried about the Las Vegas Raiders? They are, and they should be. 4 just win babies, believe it, baby. And you're like, all right, Mitch, well, tell me why. So I got to give actually a little bit of credit to our Chiefs host, Tyler Jones here. And he goes, I don't know if you saw this story or not, but the Chiefs are already preparing for the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, they're already prepared for all AFC West teams, and I'll be honest, it's probably a smart move to do just because you want to be on top of, the teams that you're going to be going up against the most. But I thought this was a really cool tweet. The next 11-on-11 period featured 1 up against 2s prepping for the Las Vegas Raiders with scout teams. Reed revealed that the Los Angeles Chargers were the previous day, the last OTA week, has clearly been about preparing for the AFC West. My point is, the Chiefs are already preparing for the Raiders in the month of June. So if you don't think that anything that happens in June isn't important, to me, the team that's won the most Super Bowls over the past 5 years, if they're doing something, it's important. And if Andy Reid is already putting into account what the Raiders are going to bring, that means he's worried about the Las Vegas Raiders. Before I get on out of here, though, if you do not know, if you want to join our Fantasy Football League, 12-team league, 2 spots we're giving away in June. Whoever banks the most this month, which right now is Fabian Moreno, a.k.a. the Night Devil. And then also, if you want to get in, I think majority of people that are watching the show, you're probably going to get in this way. You can send in a $5 super chat when we are live, or, because I know people are busy, a $5 super thanks. Every $5 super thanks, every $5 super chat is a raffle into getting into this Fantasy Football League. If we get a lot of people to join, like a lot of $5, we will end up probably kicking this to a 14-team league. I want people to join. I want to do a little fantasy football. I also want to kick some ass as well.